should be.
Now
For
it
some
is.
reason
There
it
it is.
didn't. Okay, all right. It is now. Yes. Thank you for saying that. All right. Alyssa, I am excited. What book did you choose, by the way? I can't remember.
I did Leading Quietly by
Nice.
Joseph Badaracco. I think that's how you say his last name.
Okay. It's a book
It
that
was
I
that
have
one that you hadn't
no.
read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hadn't even heard of it, never read it, and so I'm really interested to hear your take on it. So I'll give the floor to you. Go for it.
Okay. I think. Can you make screen sharing available?
I can. I must have reset every. Oh, you know what? There was an update yesterday. I wonder if it should be. You should be able to share right now. Is it not? Let's get this on video. Me messing it up
Now
again.
I can.
Okay. All right. Okay. There we go.
Okay. Yay. Okay, so I did the book Leading Quietly by Joseph Badaracco. Basically, this book is about how to handle difficult situations in your everyday leadership lives in ways that might not be super orthodox or kind of require thinking out of the box a little bit and improvising. His theory is basically that it's possible to learn not only from the great famous leaders of fantastic cases in history, but also from the way that everyday ordinary leaders solve problems in their day-to-day lives. So basically he had the book divided into two halves. The first half was kind of like the guidelines of the things to do and like how to actually lead in an unorthodox way. So every single chapter, there were 9 chapters. Every single chapter he had like the guideline and then a case study of someone that kind of showed an example of what that would look like. So the first chapter was called Don't Kid Yourself. So basically it was talking about how quiet leaders understand and anticipate surprises and changes that could occur in a company. So they know that life is not black and white and things are not just set in stone and things are going to happen that you're not expecting, and so they're always ready for that. They also understand that you have to have trust, but they also understand that it's fragile and that it's not something that's guaranteed, so they're always prepared for kind of the unexpected basically. The next chapter was called Trust Mixed Motives. So this one I kind of struggled with a little bit, but by the end of the chapter I was on his side. But basically we all struggle with that desire to keep ourselves safe and to keep, like, if you're in a situation where you could lose your job because you stand up and like do the right thing, his proposal was that maybe you don't necessarily have to stand up right away and like tell your boss this is wrong, but maybe take a little bit of time, and he talks about that in the next chapter, to develop a way that you can fix the problem without sacrificing your job as well. So, but he was also saying that this is important to have a balance. You can't just look out for yourself all the time. It has to be balanced with proper motives of, okay, how can I fix this for everybody? What's the real problem at hand? But his idea was that you should in some way have a desire to keep yourself safe, because sometimes situations, if you had that sacrificial mood and you just stood up and was like, this is wrong, sometimes that's not going to do anything. And he was saying that sometimes it costs you your job and nothing actually happens in the process. Nobody's actually helped. The boss doesn't actually care. So sometimes, as he goes into in the next chapter, you need to give yourself some more time to think through the problem, to decide how to proceed in a situation. And so he divided it into 2 things. He called them games. So one game is quick stalling. So basically, I have a meeting, I'm late for another meeting, I need to go to that, so that'll buy you just a little bit of time to be able to think through the problem without blowing up right away, or something, and maybe even just calm down for a minute so that you can think through practically what's going on. The other one was strategic stalling. So basically like that one's a little bit more risky. It involves more people usually. So he was saying with both of these, obviously you're walking a line because you don't want to be breaking the rules and you don't want to be lying, but you also are trying to save yourself and the company from blowing up or getting emotional over things that you just need to think through practically and be able to solve. So basically, be wise with your time. The next chapter was talking about investing wisely, and this was focusing on relationships and reputations. So, as he says, for quiet leaders, the best case is doing what they think is right, changing the world for the better, and improving their reputations and relationships. So, they understand the importance of building a good reputation with people and kind of saving that, because when difficult circumstances arise, then that's going to come in handy a little bit more than if nobody knows you or if you have a bad reputation. And then the second half was kind of how the leaders implemented these guidelines. So the first one is drill down. So basically, don't just try to pull courage from somewhere, decide. You need to first understand what's going on, and then you can figure out a way to fix the problem from there. So kind of like was saying earlier in the book about not just blowing up right away or giving into your emotions, but taking some more time to kind of think through the problem. The next one, this chapter was so confusing for a while, but he talks about bending the rules. And he stressed multiple times that this is not breaking the rules. It's finding a creative way to fix your problem within the parameter of the rules. And he stressed very much that leaders, quiet leaders, often know that sometimes things cannot be solved to the letter of the law. It's more the spirit of the law and the heart of the law. So sometimes finding a creative way to solve a problem, as long as it's done within the parameter and the spirit and respecting the rules, it's okay to bend them a little bit, is basically what his theory was. The next one is nudge, test, and escalate gradually. So making the choice to do something rather than run from the problem is often going to lead to uncertainty and not really knowing what the outcome will be. So this is going to require creativity to improvise, to find solutions. So you're nudging things, you're testing things, and you're gradually going up slowly. It's not just you're up here all like right away. And then lastly, his how-to was craft a compromise. So sometimes you're not always going to get the desired outcome and exactly how you want it, but sometimes for the company or for whatever situation you're in, it's better to come to a half and half deal rather than fight all the way for exactly what you want. Sometimes it just saves the company a lot of time or a lot of drama or whatever the situation may be. Sometimes you have to have the humility to just be able to come to a compromise with that situation. So then the last chapter talked about the 3 quiet virtues to be able to control these guidelines. His big thing was that used incorrectly, these guidelines can actually be bad if you're not using them correctly and if you're not respectful of them and if your goal is not to do the right thing. So he talks about restraint, modesty, and tenacity. So restraint would be taking a forceful stand on a principle can be easy way out of the problem, or it can make matters worse, so they restrain themselves. So basically learning to have self-control, learning to be patient, learning to take your time, kind of encompasses everything that he was talking about earlier in the book. Modesty, a quiet leader is not focused on being the best leader or the most famous one or the most successful. All he wants to do is do the right thing at the moment. That's his goal. He's honest about his struggles. He's honest about what he's not able to do. And he's focused on the problem that's at hand. And then tenacity, quiet leaders often fight their battle uphill. They're not always easy because they are trying to do the right thing, but oftentimes they have to do it in a unorthodox kind of creative way that most people wouldn't, because they're trying to save other people, but they're also trying to keep themselves safe as well. So instead of backing down, their tenacity helps them to persevere to gain their desired outcome. So I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really interesting and a really different take on how we view leaders and how we view maybe difficult circumstances. And for the most part, I agreed with everything that he said. There were a couple things that I was kind of confused about, but as I thought over them more, I came to more of the same conclusion as him. So yeah, that's all I
Great.
have.
Good job. Let's give her a round of applause. There you go. All right. It's thunderous. It's just you can't hear it because everyone's muted. But good job, Alyssa. I'm surprised I've never heard of that book. I think I got that one actually from Terry over at the cafeteria. He gave me like 100 leadership books, but that was excellent. I think I want to go back. Can you send me a copy of your notes If any of you, when you make your
Yeah.
presentations, if you'll email those to me, by the way, so some of you have done outlines, PowerPoints, if you'll send those to me, that'd be really helpful. But I like those 3 virtues at the end. It was tenacity. What were the 3 virtues again, Alyssa? Tenacity,
Tenacity, modesty, and restraint.
modesty, and restraint. Excellent. You know that is a great example of someone that is going to be a leader, but their personality is not one of those loud, out front type people. And sometimes I met with this guy a couple years ago. We went to lunch and I challenged him about being more of a leader. And he's like, well, I'm just not, that's just not my personality. And what he didn't realize, and what I was trying to share with him, is leadership is not about your personality. So leadership is about, this opportunity that God has put you in to influence people. And there's all different types of, we've talked about all different types of power of influence. And depending on where God places you, you're going to have some leadership opportunities. So I really like that. That was really good. I hope you guys got the basics on that so you can give a good little review of her review. So the other book review today is MIA. That's a military term for missing in action. So I'm not quite sure. I tried calling him. What I would guess, since he's not here, is I would guess that he stayed up late trying to get the book review done and overslept, and he's conked out right now and his phone battery's dead, and he's going to call me very apologetically. Hey, big guy, I'm sorry I fell asleep. So that's what I'm just predicting. Never know. But okay, so without Caleb here as team leader of Operation Century, one of the other team members is going to have to step up and kind of lead a little bit of the discussion. I do have a copy of the basic outline that your team has already kind of collected, all the different bits of what the specialists have put together and things like that. So I'd like you guys to, this is what I want you to do for the next 30 minutes, and I'll drop into your groups. So each person that's a specialist, you need to share with everyone what you found and kind of walk through how you found it. And then the other people on the team, the leader, the compiler, the other specialists, need to ask you questions about it and challenge your thinking, maybe get you to think one step further. Have you thought about this? Hey, I like this idea. Have you looked here? Whatever. And then you need to take it. So if someone on your team is giving you some constructive advice, you need to really consider it. Doesn't mean you have to do it the way they're saying, but you need to be kind of get outside of just now you were the first source. Now you need to get other people in on it. So I'm going to break you into 2 groups. Max's team, I'll probably drop into your group. Give me 5 minutes with the other group first, and then I'll drop into Max's group and kind of help walk through with you guys. But so I'm going to send you guys an invitation for these breakout rooms, and then I'll come into Caleb's group first, just kind of get you guys started, and then I will drop into Max's group. All right? Okay, here we go. So, okay, so for you guys, I have this outline. Have you guys seen the outline that Caleb or Jared put together? Okay, what I'll do, let's see. Since you guys each have your own information, I don't need to send this to you. What I'll kind of do it all back through Caleb here a little later. But I do have the top ideas from each of the specialists. So from Krista, Noah, and Emmy, and Dylan. Okay, yeah. So you guys each have yours. What you need to do is you need to kind of go around the room, share what you found, where you found it, and then everyone else needs to give you some constructive feedback. So I guess what we have here are the 4 specialists. So you guys can kind of bounce off of each other. I want you to enhance a little bit because although, there's some awesome stuff here. Like you did some research, for example, Noah, your ideas on where to promote this, excellent. You gave some very specific places and stuff, but maybe as you run these things by your teammates, they might have a new idea, or since the last time they heard you talk about it a little bit, they might have some new ideas. So and I think each of you could benefit from hearing from each other. Okay, so I'm going to leave this room, go to the other side, and help Max's team. But if you have any questions, just shoot me a message and I'll drop back in. Okay, You guys got this? Okay. All right. And then I'll send you like a 1 or 2 minute countdown. Maybe I'll give you a 5 minute warning about 5 minutes before the end of class. We'll all come back together. Okay, so I got the other team. Basically, they're missing their leader and their compiler. So it's the four specialists who
Oh,
are all
that's
just
awkward.
talking about their ideas and trying to enhance. So this is what I just instructed them, and then I want to hear from you guys. But so they each came up with, for example, the person that was working on the projects, they came up with like 3 big projects and then specifics within each of those projects. The one talking about promotion came up with 3 ideas and then where those ideas could happen, like what kind of marketing or different things like that, and kind of gave some real specific places and things to do it at. Also gave some examples that they found online of what they're talking about, and gave me some links. And then the hashtag, they gave pretty much just a couple top ideas for hashtags, and their main source was specifically from Faith's website. And then the final one is the let's see here. I'm not quite sure why the final one is kind of goes back to the slogan. Oh, I see. They just have them out of order. And then the slogan one, same thing. Faith's website was their main thing. So I'm challenging them to go back and go a little beyond where they got their information. So what I want to hear from you guys is, where are you at on this? Do you have any questions? Are there any parts of it that I haven't made clear? What can I do to help?
Somebody's got to talk, man.
For
This is-
like the
Go ahead.
for like the
Kate.
promotion and the like project ideas, do you want us to have like those outlined on like how each of these needs to be done, or do you just want us to give like ideas and then like let them decide how it gets done if they pick our ideas? Like how detailed do you want this?
I would say it doesn't have to be super detailed, because if the whoever's judging this, whoever's making the decision, if they don't like the general idea, then I don't want you to spend too much time on like where and how to do it. On the other hand, you might have an idea. Let's say that you said, hey, we need to put our centennial celebration into World Magazine. Well, if all you put is that, it might not trigger enough information in the minds of those judging it. They might not give it enough thought. So what you might do is, if you really feel like that's a good one and you've bounced it off your team members, you might say, here's a sample of another college that advertised in World Magazine. That's why I'm saying this. And now they might look twice. So you're just trying to give enough to where they consider it, so they don't just, kind of skim over. And we're going to take the best of your team and the other team and put it together anyway. But if you really feel like, hey, this is a worthwhile idea, just give enough detail so that it's self-explanatory, I guess, or so that it is visually, it makes sense. Because, you have basically non-marketing people that are going to be involved in making these decisions. You got non-hashtag, you got people that have never used a hashtag their whole life. They're going to be at least hearing about the hashtag suggestions. So it's interesting to understand the audience of who's the decision makers in this. So that's a good question. What else? You guys think you could get wherever you're at together in like an outline form and get that to me by tomorrow, so that I can talk to Caleb and Max and try to, what I'm going to do probably is, I just want to see what you got, what you have. I want to talk to Caleb and Max, have them send back to you guys whatever my thoughts are. And then on Tuesday, I want someone from each team to present, here's the rough outline of what we're talking about. It doesn't have to be a full-blown, highly detailed presentation. We're kind of just trying to give, hey, here's our top 3 ideas in each of these categories, and here's the ones we feel the most excited about. You might have one that just is like, this one's a no-brainer, these others are maybe not as good, If you guys say this is our favorite thing, then put that at the top. You know, you can communicate that when we talk about it on Tuesday. But basically, I just want the two teams to be able to share with each other now what you found. And what will happen probably, because this isn't a competition, it's not like one team's going to get an A and another team's going to get an F. You're going to be like, oh, aha, yes, I see. Why didn't we think of that? Or, oh, I hate that idea. I don't know why they came up with that. That's the beauty of having all these different minds and creative minds working on this. So, do you think you can pull an outline together for me by tomorrow so I can look at it over the weekend? And then what I'll do is as soon as I get it, I'll try and turn it around to you by Sunday so you guys can talk on Monday. So that Tuesday in class after the book reviews, we will have it can be any representative of either team can just present the general ideas. I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of walk through, and then you guys can kind of talk with each other a little bit about it, and then we'll go from there. We'll probably come up with some way of deciding what the best ideas are for this application, and we'll also decide, I'll probably meet with the compilers on what's the best way to put it together in a presentation, and then we'll probably get Mr. Gogarty involved on that part of it. So does that make sense? All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to get that on record. So thank you very much. I might make that my ringtone every time Tim calls. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Well, I'm gonna leave your breakout room so you guys can chat. I will give you a 5-minute warning before we all come back together at the end of class. Okay? Good?